Remember when Donte DiVincenzo literally just had a breakout season on the New York Knicks? He worked his way into the starting lineup, and following the Knicks' multitude of injuries, DiVincenzo was one of a handful of guys who were healthy, and thus got more minutes than he ever did before. While the Knicks' playoff run ended prematurely, his effort was nothing short of spectacular.
No, Hartenstein with an offensive rebound. Another chance here, DiVincenzo, he's got it! The Knicks have the lead again!
Then, in the series against the Pacers, he averaged nearly 23 points a game, but it was his three-point shooting that really stood out, as he nailed 46% of his threes on nearly 10 attempts per game. It wasn't just his skills that captivated the crowd, but his attitude. His boisterous personality combined with his toughness and grit exemplified what New York basketball is all about. So, over the offseason, when the Knicks unfortunately had to package him in a trade to receive Karl Anthony Towns, I'm willing to bet most Knicks fans were more upset with losing DiVincenzo than Randle. It seemed like he was the perfect fit for New York, and the team was building something special. Upon his arrival to Minnesota, however, it's like his talent got sucked away by the Monstars. In this video, I want to take a detailed look at 5 once promising NBA studs, players who had immense value in the past, but in the blink of an eye, they became worthless. There's no denying my love for the Italian stallion. Up until his arrival to New York, he was deemed as a traveling role player who never found a home until then. And with a breakout year under his belt, there was no telling how much further DiVincenzo could improve. Sadly, it turns out perhaps his breakout season was nothing but a one-hit wonder. In the blockbuster trade that sent him and Randle to Minnesota, he wasn't just deemed as a throw-in, but a major piece of this trade that really enticed the Wolves. Randle, by himself, is not a better player than Cat, but Randle and DiVincenzo, one of the best shooters in the league who's only getting better, that might be worth making this deal. At least that's what the Wolves thought. Maybe they just wanted to get rid of Towns' contract because their owner is cheap. But there was serious conversation that DiVincenzo will be the difference maker in Minnesota. Unfortunately, right when he arrived, he reportedly, quote, was not thrilled with the idea of coming off the bench after being traded. This sparked an immediate red flag because it shows a conflict of interest with the team, and they can't cater to his demands to be a starter. It didn't help that he literally sucks at basketball now. Like, he completely lost his shot. He lost his confidence, and looks disinterested in even playing for Minnesota. He's still playing like 20 minutes a game, but he shouldn't even be getting that much, let alone demand to be a starter when he's the problem.
3 assists, a steal. DiVincenzo off.
Of course, you can't entirely put the blame on DiVincenzo. The moment that coach Chris Finch said, quote, "We knew he was a great off-ball cutter in Golden State. We knew he was a great spot-up shooter from his time in New York. But his playmaking and all-around game has been really impressive." My first thought was, there's no way they're going to use DiVincenzo as the primary playmaker off the bench, right? If we rewind a bit, the reason he succeeded in Golden State and New York was because he was primarily a cutter and spot-up shooter. But when you give him the primary playmaking duties and to run the offense from the bench, there's no way he'd excel in that role. Granted, I'm not saying he can't improve over time, but it's clear he hasn't improved enough to be in this role. DiVincenzo's shot selection has also changed for the worse. Because he's trying to be a playmaker, he's cutting to the basket far less than he used to. Hence why he's shooting a career-low 10% of his shots at the basket. His three-point shot has fell off because he needs to create the shots for himself more. When he comes off the bench, he doesn't play with anyone who helps him get open. In order for him to capitalize on his strengths, maybe he does need to play with the starters, who can help him get open looks. He's been a great three-point shooter for his entire career, and players don't lose their shots overnight unless there's something wrong with the offense or he's being used incorrectly, which I believe is the case here. As a result, his numbers plummeted, his reputation and value plummeted, and while the Wolves are still a good team, with DiVincenzo's regression and Randle's expiring contract and questionable fit on the roster, they might have self-sabotaged their only chance to win a championship during this era, especially by trading away one of their stars who never wanted to leave Minnesota in the first place. Brandon Podziemski. Over the summer, Anthony Slater from The Athletic made a report in regards to the Warriors rookie Brandon Podziemski. Apparently, the Warriors don't want to trade Podziemski because he's, quote, beloved organizationally. At the time this report came out, it made sense. Brandon Podziemski impressed the Warriors during his first workout with them, and he convinced them to take him with their 19th overall pick. They loved his work ethic, his calm but steady poise that made him seem like a veteran despite his youth. And in his rookie season, he certainly proved to be an incredible draft steal, and quickly became a core piece of the future of this franchise.
Rebound, Podziemski steal. 2 seconds. He throws up a 3. He backed it in!
He even replaced Klay Thompson in the starting lineup because Podziemski showed so much potential. The Warriors were basically shopping everyone except for Steph, and apparently Brandon Podziemski. So to see them say he's so beloved that he's untradeable, it was surprising, yet not surprising, because he legitimately looked like the perfect fit for this franchise, and for years to come. Then his sophomore season happened. In a season where he was supposed to take a massive leap, the expectations weighed down on the young shooting guard. He carried more burden and higher expectations than he's ever experienced, and mentally, he wasn't ready yet. According to Draymond Green, this is what he had to say about Podziemski struggling.
It's hard having a great rookie season and then coming back and having the second year as good or better. It's tough. That's why you've always heard of a sophomore slump. And I think for him, he's just put so much pressure on himself for the player that he wants to be and that he thinks he should be, and it's unnecessary.
Joe Lacob, the Warriors owner, even called him a future all-star. For Brandon, the pressure was insurmountable, and as someone who set a high standard for himself, he could not handle failure very well. Like Draymond said, the sophomore slump exists for a reason. It's because players expect themselves to be better each year, and all of a sudden, they get nervous. They find themselves messing up, doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. This was quite evident after a loss to the Denver Nuggets on December 3rd. While Steve Kerr's rant was kinda overshadowed by his complaints of Christian Braun's timeout at the end, he also ripped into Brandon Podziemski and his ridiculously bad decision-making.
Pod's a hell of a player, but he needs to, and I've told him this, he needs to be a smart player.
For example, you can see it in these plays right here. Just absolutely dumb decision-making, and horrible passes. It was capped off by a late foul on Michael Porter Jr. when he shot a three-pointer. He finished that game with 5 fouls. This young player the Warriors once adored for his great decision-making and great shooting, both of these parts of his game were now called into question. His so-called strengths and untouchable trade status became, vulnerable. Though initially deemed as a high-value prospect, I'm not sure where the Warriors stand on this now, and if he is on the trade block, how much are other teams even willing to give up for a player who took 3 steps backwards in his sophomore year? Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma's career can be summed up in 3 stages. First, he entered the NBA alongside famed rookie Lonzo Ball, and he gained extraordinary fame playing for the most popular team in the league. Then, he moved to the bench and became the 6th man for LeBron's first championship as a Laker. Then, he got traded to the Wizards in the infamous Russell Westbrook trade. And ever since then, he fell off the map and became completely irrelevant. We always talk about players who put up high-volume stats on bad teams, but Kuzma has been the poster boy for that in several seasons already. He's put up career highs across the board, 21, 22 points a game, but it's probably the best representation of empty stats in the modern era. The Wizards have no chance to compete with Kuzma as their leading scorer, because he's not meant to be one. What he's best at is being a 3rd or 4th option on a playoff contender, because he has an extremely talented offensive bag who actually learned to become a playmaker and developed his all-around game. I mean, he's a much more well-rounded player than back in LA, If Kuzma joined any playoff contender, he'd immediately provide them an instant boost off the bench. Instead, he's stuck on the Wizards, where he's pretending to be a star. Despite being in trade rumors for his entire time in DC, they might have missed their opportunity to trade him. In the 2024-25 campaign, Kuzma had a horrendous start, exemplified by a rib injury that he struggled to recover from, and a diminishing role on the team. As the Wizards have been bad for years now, they've accumulated several draft prospects that they've been trying to develop. Instead of going the route of continuing with Kuzma as their main guy, they've transitioned towards their younger prospects. As a result, Kuzma's value has never been lower.
Airball.
Out of every player on the Wizards, he's been at the forefront of trade rumors, but at this point, what can they get back for him? On the bright side, his contract is not that bad, so his value comes from not being overpaid, which is something, I guess. Keegan Murray. Do you remember Keegan Murray's rookie season? In the 2022-23 season, Keegan Murray broke the NBA rookie record for the most threes made in their first NBA season. With 206 threes made, he eclipsed Donovan Mitchell. For a guy who also holds the distinction of making arguably the biggest jump between his freshman and sophomore years in college, Keegan Murray became one of the most enticing prospects in basketball. His improvement in such a short time was otherworldly, and you could only assume he was on his way to becoming a future NBA star. It's been some years since his rookie season has passed, and what has Keegan Murray accomplished during this time? Well, if you can guess, not much. As the Sacramento Kings went from the most hyped season in nearly 2 decades, returning back to the playoffs for the first time since 2006, their rise to glory was also very short-lived. Once ranked as the league's #1 offense, they fell back into nothing more than an average team. As their offense became more predictable, Murray's game was exposed with all his flaws. Fast forward a bit, and now, with his three-point shot completely vanishing, it made people realize he doesn't contribute much else. I mean, as a 6'8" combo forward / tweener, he's not particularly strong in any other aspect of the game besides his floor spacing ability, which is more of an inability now. The regression of his three-point shot is mostly due to the lack of spacing. The Kings, once known as the premier team for spacing, has seen issues with a stagnating offense. It results in Murray's own struggles. More of his shots are tightly contested than before, and the worst part is, he wasn't able to build upon other parts of his game during this time. Considering he's due for a new contract in the summer of 2025, he went from an instant lock for the future of this team to a hesitant front office who might not even want to keep him. More and more, it's looking like Murray's rookie season was an outlier, and he probably won't ever reproduce his three-point shooting again. Wendell Carter Jr. The Orlando Magic have been in a slow, quiet rebuilding process for basically since Dwight Howard left. But this is the first time they look like they can sustain a playoff-level team for years to come. With their plethora of young talent, some of whom are on the verge of becoming bona fide stars, left behind, sadly, is their young starting center, Wendell Carter Jr. Arriving to Orlando via the Nikola Vucevic trade to the Bulls, Carter Jr. found himself in a situation where he could grow alongside the rest of the roster. With a guaranteed starting center spot, combined with his passing ability and improved three-point shot, fans started to look at him as the glue that holds the team together. Prior to the NBA draft, the former 7th overall pick was compared to the likes of Al Horford or Marc Gasol, which is not a bad comparison at all. Any team would love to have a guy like Horford or Gasol. As the Orlando Magic became better and better, Carter's role, unfortunately, has diminished substantially.
Corner, Suggs. Carter a three. No. Suggs will try. You bet!
Instead of trying to give him more opportunities on offense, the Magic decided they were better off feeding the ball to anyone else on the team. Over time, they became a more perimeter-oriented team, preferring to attack from the wings, and rely on their 2 stars or their guards to create a play off the dribble. More and more frequently, Wendell Carter Jr. is simply standing around, doing nothing. I mean, well, he's literally taking 5 shots a game now. and his usage rate at 11% is now a career low, down from over 20% when he first joined the team. His jump shot looks completely shot as well. Though never a high-volume shooter, his ability to space the floor was a crucial component of his game that he no longer has. In fact, his backup, Moritz Wagner, is actually the preferred option for the Magic now, because he fits into their offense much better. One of Carter's strengths include his skill at passing from the high post into the paint. But the Magic don't need him to do that. When you have two 6'10" guys who are the core of this team, they can simultaneously set picks, pass the ball, and roll to the basket or pop out for a three whenever they want. Carter's skill set has been lost in the dust, and completely unusable on a team like this. The funny thing is, I remember when the Magic signed him to a 3-year, $60 million deal over the summer. Initially, it was deemed as quite a bargain for a 25-year-old starting center for a team on the rise. Except now, it looks like one of the worst deals in the league. $20 million a year for a center who's outclassed by his backup. Yikes. And that's all, folks. Those were 5 NBA players, once promising NBA studs, whose value plummeted and they became worthless. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you agree or disagree with my opinions here? And can you think of any other players who can fit the theme of this video? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.